I've been reliant on a couple firms to sell me leads. And now without them, I have no business. I don't have a brand. I'm really at the mercy of them.
That is Jordan Banafsheha, the founder and CEO of Icepop, a digital marketing firm helping businesses build the full marketing engine from awareness to conversion to retention.
There are really big law firms that will spend millions of dollars with these referral businesses, and they will get the higher quality leads, the bigger ticket leads, because they have a little bit of like a preferential treatment.
In this conversation, Jordan breaks down why buying leads can feel safe until it isn't. He explains what diversification actually looks like and how building your own brand compounds so you're not starting from zero every time the market shifts.
As of today, literally today, OpenAI put out the first image of what an ad is going to look like on ChatGPT. And so we actually have a visual now where we can actually see how our ad's going to look, how are they going to appear, how are we going to be able to bid on these things. And they're slowly rolling it out over the next few months.
Today, he outlines how to stop being dependent on one channel, what's changing in legal marketing right now, and how AI search is about to reshape visibility completely. By the end of this conversation, you'll learn how to protect your pipeline, build leverage through your own marketing, and adapt before the next shift hits. I'm Julien Emery, and this is the Scalable Law Blueprint. One of the reasons I wanted to have you on this podcast is I know there's a lot of digital marketers out there, but specifically you've worked with some folks that I know and trust who operate at some pretty significant scale. And you come very, very highly recommended from people that have worked with you. And so I just want to call that out to anyone listening. Like what I've heard from multiple people is like, you got to talk to Jordan. Jordan knows the stuff. So I think that's awesome. I think the product background probably helps with that. You probably think more through like the full customer journey instead of just like, did someone click on the ad?
Yeah. When you work at a big tech company, you know, it's not just coming up with an idea. There's so many details to execution, from the concept to the legal, to the marketing, to the copywriting, localization. So when you have that background, I think it helps you just think these things through a little bit further than the average marketer.
I know like the landscape of marketing is changing, and we're talking specifically here about law firms and legal marketing. And I know there's some new regulations and laws around marketing. Can you just share more around some of these changes and how that impacts law firms specifically?
Yeah. So we're recording this in January 2026. These new laws are already in effect as of January 1st. The major one that there's a lot of buzz around is called SB 37, which specifically impacts law firms in California. And what it's trying to do is bring more transparency to marketing so consumers can make better decisions. So there are a set of rules for law firms, and there are a set of rules for companies that get leads and refer them to law firms. On the law firm side, there are things like you have to put the name of the managing partner on the ad. You have to specify where the office is. You have to specify, is this AI? Is it an actor portrayal? Is this a real settlement? Is it not? You know, there's a lot of regulations, and you can actually be fined if you're putting out things that don't follow these rules. And if you get a complaint, you have to take down the ads pretty quickly and address these things. So they're really clamping down on what you can and can't do. Whereas, you know, for the past 5 years, it was kind of the wild, wild west of advertising for marketing firms. On the referral business side, it seems like the lawyers have really clamped down there even harder. Referral businesses have to specifically mention that they are not a law firm and that they are a referral service. They also must be barred, just like attorneys. So there's a state bar where referral businesses have to go and get a certification, a state bar number, and they do need to present that number on their ads and on their marketing materials to be compliant with the law. What that actually means is that all these referral businesses that have typically taken up a big chunk of the leads off Facebook ads and Instagram ads, they might start to see their conversion rates start to dip because they have to specifically say, we are not a law firm. We're going to be referring this out to someone else, and being a lot more transparent than they've historically had to be.
Interesting. You talk about specifically data as liability there. I guess how does this change the relationship that law firms have with lead generators?
I think typically a lot of law firms, especially when they're first starting out, will go to these referral businesses to buy leads as opposed to building their own brands, because it's somewhat easier. Someone else is worrying about the marketing. Someone else is worrying about qualifying leads and, you know, passing them over to them. So it makes sense why lawyers go there. But from our point of view, and it's a little bit early to tell, but we do think that these kinds of disclosures and changes are going to make it a little bit more expensive and harder for referral businesses to collect this data and to collect these leads. So I think that'll probably drive up costs for lawyers that are trying to buy leads from these services. And I also think that we're going to continue to see more and more regulations come out. And as that happens, that might make it harder and harder for new referral businesses to come into the market and for the existing ones to really play at a large scale. I think it's going to push attorneys to do more of their own marketing, which, I personally think is a good thing. But that's the kind of trend we expect to see.
And is this right now just in California, or do you see similar laws in other states that have either already come out or are going to come out soon?
We specifically work with mostly law firms in California. We do work with some law firms in other states. Typically, what we see with any part of the law or any kind of regulation is when a major state like California makes an initiative, other states tend to adopt those too. So I would not be surprised if this becomes the standard across the country, even for states that don't have these laws yet, because that's typically what ends up happening.
So it sounds like you're saying the onus is going to be increasingly on the law firm to do their own marketing. That is counter to what most law firm owners tend to want to do. It can seem like there's just a lot of firms that just live off referrals. And if they're living off referrals and there's this world where they might be forced to pick up their own marketing game, or if other firms are picking up their marketing game, I guess, how do they gain more leverage by becoming like case generators and doing their own marketing? How do you think about that dynamic?
Yeah, first off, I am always a proponent of having more than one channel for any kind of business to generate business. That could be working with these kinds of companies that refer business to you. That could be running ads on multiple channels. I always think that you should de-risk your business and have multiple channels generating things. But with these laws changing and with just a trend I've seen over the past couple of years, we have so many lawyers come to us and say, I decided to buy leads and I've been reliant on a couple firms to sell me leads. And now without them, I have no business. I don't have a brand. I'm really at the mercy of them. And the other factor that people don't really talk about is that there are so many new PI law firms and lemon law firms and employment law firms. And that's driven up the cost naturally with more demand on the law side from these referral businesses to sell them leads. And another reality that people don't like to talk about is that there are really big law firms that will spend millions of dollars with these referral businesses, and they will get the higher quality leads, the bigger ticket leads, because they have a little bit of a preferential treatment for how much they spent. So just in the past month, I've had multiple lawyers come to me and say, I've been buying leads for years. Now I know I need to diversify. And what I would urge everyone to do is do that on day one. Buy leads, start your brand, do all these different channels on day one so you're not reliant on one channel. And the earlier you start, the more likely you are for your brand to have brand awareness, for people to think of you, to next time they see an ad of you, remember to reach out to you as opposed to a competitor. It's something that compounds over time. So the longer you delay, the longer it takes for you to get results. And if you are generating the leads yourself, you can refer business out to other law firms. So you don't just have to take all those leads and handle them yourself. You can refer them to other lawyers and get a percentage back. And you can really control your destiny. You can scale up the ad spend, you can scale it back. And I think that there are so many great resources now to help lawyers do really great advertising, boutique shops all around the country, great video production companies all around the country, AI coming into play. There's really no reason not to do it at this point.
Right. It's still a big shift, though, as a law firm. If you've been reliant on, I'm just thinking small law firm that gets 20 cases a month or something through referrals and lives comfortably off of that. How do you think about the stages of growth and going from, say, 0 to 100 cases a month, and then 100 to 500, and then up to 1,000, and 1,000 to 5,000? These are big step changes, I imagine. Is there sort of a way to think about getting to that next level at each of these stages?
Yeah, there's so many different components when it comes to each of those buckets. In the beginning, you need to figure out what intake looks like. Is that manual, or is that using a software like yours that helps automate it and keep your costs low? How many attorneys do you have? Can you handle that kind of caseload? So it's not so easy just to say we're going to increase our ad spend, take on more cases and deal with it. It is really like a step-by-step building. But what we tend to see is that you can start your ads, you can get to a certain scale, you can start to build out your team, kind of sit at that scale for a little bit, understand what are the issues, what are the places that need some automation, what are the places that need work, kind of really make that tight and neat. And then once you're there, then again, scaling up your ads to the next level and doing the same thing at each of these buckets. The other thing I would mention is people think that sometimes if they have the budget, they could spend the budget effectively on Meta and on Google and on these channels. And that's not always the case. From an advertising perspective, it's very different to spend $10,000 a month compared to $100,000 a month or $300,000 a month. The same ads, the same techniques will not always scale. You need more ad testing. You need more landing pages, because just because something works for a certain demo that you found doesn't mean it will convert for the next demo that you have to break into. Maybe even expand into different languages, right? Like Spanish ads, English ads, Chinese ads, because there's huge populations that speak all these different languages in California. So I think there are logistics and operations pieces that need to be done. And then there is marketing work that needs to be done to go from each of these levels to the next level. And it takes time, effort, precision, and strategy. It's not just something that you kind of do overnight.
All right, we'll get back to the show in 1 second. But real quick, what if you could scale your law firm without adding more chaos? With SuperPanel, you can. It automates intake workflows, follows up with clients, and collects evidence automatically, freeing your team from repetitive tasks and helping you grow with confidence. If that sounds like the kind of system your firm can use, scan the QR code or click the link in the show notes to see how it works. Now let's get back to the conversation. What are the biggest, I'm curious, like in people trying to go to that next stage, like what are the biggest barriers that hold them back from getting to the next stage? Like the reasons for failure if they're trying to go from, 100 to 400 cases or something?
Off the top of my head, I think there's two things. One is I think business owners sometimes don't allocate enough time to content creation. And at the end of the day, advertising, especially on Meta, has changed a lot, and Google has changed a lot over the past 5 years. 5 years ago, advertising was all about targeting. Now it's basically 90% about creative. And so if you don't have enough creative and you don't have the right kind of creative, it'll be very difficult for you to scale. As I say, hey, if you want to scale your ad spend from 20 grand a month to 50 grand a month, how about you take 10 grand from that 50K budget and go do another video shoot that gives you a ton of other assets so we can scale effectively, as opposed to just scaling the ad budget and hoping the creative is going to work at that next level. So there's this mindset sometimes that people don't want to invest in the creative. They just want to invest in the ad spend. And we at this point almost turn down people who are not willing to invest in video shoots and photo shoots and getting the right kinds of assets, because we know that we might not be as successful. The second thing I would say is that finding ways to scale the intake process is very important. Sometimes it might take 20 or 30 touch points with someone to get to a signed retainer. And if you don't have a process that scales with you and you're just getting more leads, and now your touch points go from 10, 15, 20 to 3, 5, 7, that means that you're not hitting those people enough times, and your conversion rate from lead to retainer is going to go down, and then your economics will not work the same way. And so it's very, very important to have a plan in place that allows you to scale at the same level of execution as you're scaling up the number of leads you get.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. We see this a lot on the intake side. It's funny. I talked to a lot of operators at firms, and the funny thing is a lot of them talk about their conversion rate off of wanted cases. And when you peel back the layer a little bit, you're like, how many didn't even make it to wanted because you're not following up enough, or you didn't pick up the phone at that time? It's like your overall conversion rate could jump by 40% if you had a higher wanted rate. So how about we get that up?
Definitely.
Which I think is exactly what you're saying. So talking about intake, I'm always just curious. We've seen how much intake can scale based on what we do in our product and the firms we're working with. One just kind of general thought that I've had is if the cost of intake comes down, I mean, it has come down, but as the cost of intake nears zero and it's fractions of what it normally is to do it really well, why not market to more case types? Like if you're a PI firm, why not also do lemon law and also do employment law and do multiple types of PI? Like where is I know that you want sort of specialization on the actual execution of the casework and sort of knowledge of that, but assuming you can solve some of the downstream things, does it make sense to expand the net of leads you're going after, or is that a lot harder than I think it ought to be?
Yeah, I think I will say this with admitting that I have never run my own law firm, and I think that there's a lot of nuance that I probably don't have. But I think that there's a two-pronged strategy I'm seeing from a lot of lawyers right now. One is that they want to scale into more areas of law under the current, let's call it, section of law that they work in. So just as an example, if you're doing personal injury, you go, great, we're going after car accident cases, we're going after slip and fall. Let's add dog bite cases as another category under personal injury that we want to advertise for. So that's one trend that we see, which is just adding more kinds of cases under the same kind of law. And then the second trend we're seeing, especially in California, where there's uncertainty around what's going to happen with Uber's push around making it more difficult for personal injury attorneys to do what they need to do to represent people in California. I see a lot of personal injury firms looking at other areas of law to expand as well. We're seeing a big push into employment law right now and lemon law, but that's been a longer trend in employment law, where a personal injury firm goes, we actually want to open up an entire new practice area. We're going to hire attorneys that know what they're doing in employment law, and we're going to start doing lead gen for our own firm in employment law. So I think you can scale up your operations in both ways. I think it's obviously a little bit more challenging when you're jumping into a new area of law, because you either need to go learn how to practice in that area or hire an attorney that knows how to. And so there's a little bit more friction, whereas adding dog bites to personal injury seems like a little bit less friction from what I've learned from some attorneys. But both of those things are occurring, and I think will rapidly increase with the cost of intake and the cost of processing going down. Because if you have an attorney that knows lemon law, PI, and employment law, and your cost to intake is zero, they'll go after all those kinds of cases, take the highest value cases, refer out the other cases that have value but they don't want to work on, and then keep scaling up the firm from there.
If you're incorporating more and more technology for intake all the way to settlement, it's like, yeah, I'm not going after more markets. You talked about making sure intake is right when you're coming in, but one feedback I've heard from all kinds of law firms is like, oh, we increased our marketing spend and we got a whole bunch of crappy leads, so we're just going to go back to buying referrals like we talked about before. What are your thoughts on this with these firms that are just like, oh, marketing, we just get nothing but crappy leads?
Just to start off the branches, right? You worked with a good marketing firm or you worked with a bad marketing firm. And so sometimes you worked with a firm that doesn't really know the law aspect, the legal landscape, and they just can't deliver for your kind of company. And that's a scenario. Even when you work with a good firm, again, there's so many different layers. Did you have the right intake team that could actually handle cold leads as opposed to super high quality leads that you're getting from someone else that's vetting them? Does your website or landing page look like it can convert? Does it have the best practices for CRO? Is your content good? Again, 90% of this in advertising is content. And then on top of that, you have great content, but was it edited the right way? Do you have hooks that grab people's attention in the first 3 seconds? Are you retargeting people? What are you actually doing to convert these people from ad to landing page? And the last piece, which I always tell every attorney before they think about switching to us, is, did you spend enough and did you spend enough time to make a decision? Because all business owners are impatient. I'm impatient, right? I want results right away. But if you're not willing to at least give yourself 3 months of a testing period, especially if you're a brand new, let's call it online brand, like you've not really had a brand online, give it 3 months for Meta and Google to collect data. Do you give Meta and Google feedback? Did you say these are good leads and these are bad leads and these are retained and these are referred? Most people don't know this. You can actually do offline conversion events where you tell Meta and Google what happened to those leads. And they actually built that technology for law firms. They built it because they know that in e-commerce, a purchase happens in a day, but a retainer could take 30 days to sign. So they actually built these technologies and a lot of people don't use them. And so did you spend enough money to get enough leads to make a decision? Did you have the right expectations? And did you give it enough time? And just to speak like super high level in terms of like numbers Retainer might cost a few $1,000s to achieve off an ad from Meta. So if your budget is only $2,500 a month and you're running ads for personal injury in California, you're not putting yourself or the firm in a position to succeed. You need to give them more budget. You need to give them more time. Whereas maybe you're in a different area of law, like employment law, where the cost per retainer is less. And so you could make something work with a few $1,000s. So my advice is work with someone you trust. Make sure you're getting data. Make sure that you have visibility. Make sure that they're setting up everything in your accounts, not their accounts. Make sure the content looks great. Make sure you have enough budget and time, and then evaluate it. But if you don't have those guardrails or parameters, then evaluating 10 leads, 50 leads, 100 leads that come in is almost pointless and useless, and it's not going to actually teach you anything.
That makes a ton of sense. I feel like the impatience and desire for a coin-operated sales process is probably the driver of a lot of that. You talk a lot about content and how the creative matters a lot. Obviously, with AI tools for creating content and editing creative, whatever, and also just AI in terms of how consumers search now, right? Like the search results in Google and ChatGPT, Claude. I guess just in your mind at a high level, what has changed because of AI and marketing? What has stayed the same? How should people think about the evolving landscape and how they should be thinking about it from a marketing perspective?
I think this is the most exciting time in advertising in the past 10 years that I've seen. There is so much to unpack here. There's so many exciting new things happening. Each of them have different implications on the future in advertising. The first, like you mentioned, is content creation with AI. We are leveraging AI to make ads left and right now. And historically, we've had some firms or some businesses come to us that don't have a lot of great content, and they didn't want to invest a lot of money into a shoot, or they couldn't invest a lot of money into a shoot because they're a small business. A lot of times we've had to turn down these businesses or tell them, come back to us after you have a shoot done. Now we can offer a variety of solutions. We could say, you could do a photo shoot with this guy and a video shoot with this guy, or we could use AI to make these kinds of ads for you. And for a lot of businesses, that's brought down the cost to build good creative. And that's helped us make our clients more successful. We're doing videos, we're doing images, we're doing things that look super natural, like actually natural. Again, I will say specifically in the legal marketing landscape, you do have to disclose now that like something is like not real. And, people are still learning how to interpret the law, but we're going ahead and saying this is AI generated. And I think that that's okay in certain areas. If you're doing a fake testimonial, then saying it's AI is going to kill the whole purpose of the ad. But if you're doing something that is like so supernatural and crazy and grabs people's attention and is obviously AI, but is tasteful and effective, then that's different. And people won't really look at that negatively. So we're using AI for content creation. We're also using AI to move faster on a lot of things. We can design things faster. We can build things faster. The cost for development, the cost for design is going down as we can generate things faster and get things done the right way faster. And then the last piece, which I'm super excited about, is people searching in AI platforms. Gemini, ChatGPT, Claude. These tools are getting billions of searches a year, if not a month at this point. And what we've seen is we've already started seeing traffic come to the attorneys we work with through these AI platforms. And there's going to be two different areas to this search beast. Just like there is an organic Google and paid Google, there's going to be organic AI searches and paid AI searches. On the organic side, we have a lot of new tactics we're using to help companies rank at the top of AI searches. For example, top lemon law firm, California, top real estate broker, Los Angeles. These are phrases that people are searching. We're finding ways to make sure the AI looks at our websites and our content and our profiles and rank us high for our clients. But as of today, literally today, OpenAI put out the first image of what an ad is going to look like on ChatGPT. And so we actually have a visual now where we can actually see how our ads going to look, how are they going to appear, how are we going to be able to bid on these things. And they're slowly rolling it out over the next few months. But we are on the wait list to be one of the first partners to be able to launch ads there. And we are very, very bullish on people going to clicking on AI ads, just like they have clicked on Google ads over the past decade. So again, I think this is the most interesting time to be in advertising. I think the whole industry is being shaken up in a really nice way. And I think you need to work with A+ people to be able to execute. The barrier to entry on this creative has gone up in that you have to disclose everything you're doing. The barrier of entry to make high quality content on AI is less, but in general, it's higher, right? Because there's so many marketing ads for lawyers, your content has to stand out. And so you need to do better work from an advertising perspective. And then searches are going from Google to AI, and dealing with that is a whole other set of consequences. So we're very excited about it. We're attacking it. We're learning every single day. And I think that a lot of young attorneys that jump on this trend are going to outpace the attorneys that are too slow to change and too slow to adopt these things. And they're going to take business away from those attorneys.
How do you evaluate marketers then? If I'm sitting here running a law firm and I'm not working with you, Jordan, and one, you should contact Jordan. Contact information will be in the show notes. But how should they generally think about choosing a marketing firm? Because it just seems like there's a lot of BS out there, and I'm curious, how do you evaluate the right firm? I guess you can sort of test things and see if they work, but given that you have to make a certain amount of investment and wait a certain amount of time, how do you think about a checklist of things to look for maybe when making a decision?
I think there's a few things that I would do if I was a decision maker trying to hire a firm. The first thing is you have to understand the landscape. There are 3 kinds of marketing solutions out there. There are the big firms, without naming names. Those are firms that have hundreds of employees that are very well known. There are boutique firms. I would qualify us as a boutique firm, right? Like less than 100 employees. And then there are freelancers. Typically, what I tell people is the big firms tend to not give the best customer support and service unless you're one of their biggest accounts that's looking for support. I wouldn't really go up to the larger companies because you're not going to get the service and experience you need. I think freelancers are great, but they tend to tap out and they tend to not have resources for everything you need to do. And so by the time you pay all those different retainers, you end up paying just as much as you would with an agency. And I think there are the boutique agencies. And I think boutique agencies tend to have less customers. They tend to work on quality, and they tend to really want to have long-lasting relationships with their clients. And so I would start off my search looking at boutique agencies if I was an attorney looking to hire a digital marketing firm. The next thing I would do is I would understand, do they have experience in this category? Specifically with law firms, there's new laws, there's regulations, the cost per retainer and lead in every single part of law is different. And if someone can't really effectively give you an estimate of, on average, what's the cost per retainer for PI versus employment versus lemon law, they might not have enough experience to make you successful. And so I would really just urge you to talk to people, ask them specific numbers, and see what they come back with to make sure they actually have the experience you're looking for. And then the last thing I would say is you want to talk to some of their current customers, because if you call one of their law firms and he says, yeah, I'm consistently getting leads and I know it's coming from Meta, and he set up this tracking with CallRail and I can actually see the exact phone numbers that are coming from Meta and I can tell he's bringing me high quality cases, that means that you have some verification, some social proof that you can make a decision off of. If they're scared to have you talk to their clients, I don't necessarily think that's a good indicator or a good sign. And those are the main things I would look for. If you have other concerns, I would look at what does the quality of the creative look like? What does the quality of the landing pages look like? And you have to make sure they're actually controlling that. Sometimes agencies don't control that. Go to the Facebook ads library, type in any law firm's name that they work with, and see the ads they're working on. Click on the landing pages and see what the experience looks like. And see if you think it's up to the par of the work that you're expecting for your firm. So that's where I would start. I'm always happy to give people advice, even if they don't work with our firm. So if you ever are evaluating another agency or need help or want to just get a gut check, you can always reach out to me, and I'm happy to lend time to help you guys make the right decision.
That's super helpful. What are your thoughts, real quick, too, on the boutique agencies? We're talking digital marketing as well. I imagine most boutique agencies will kind of focus on, and probably big agencies too, digital marketing and all channels there versus, billboards or radio ads or what have you. I guess, how do you think about channel selection in your advertising within digital and beyond digital? Is there like an easy place to start, or do you layer those all together? How do you think about that?
Really great question. It's so customized per the area of law and the kind of business and so many factors. But just as a quick summary, I would say on the digital side, if you already have some brand awareness, or if you already have some out of home going or other things, then Google could be very impactful for you because people are already looking for you. You want to make sure you show up, capture that demand, and it could be very effective. If your law firm has a ton of 5-star reviews, like hundreds of 5-star reviews, Google could be a really great place for you to double down and advertise. But personal injury phone calls are much more expensive than employment law calls from Google. And so you would probably want to, see if you have the budget to compete on that channel for that kind of area of law. Whereas on the Meta side, Meta is a little bit different in that you're not targeting people by a search. You are prospecting. You're convincing someone to reach out to you. And so you don't really have the same kind of issue where it's like $300 per phone call on Meta for PI, because you could serve those ads to anyone in any geo. And as long as you're engaging and you reach the right person, they can reach out and the cost per lead could be lower. But on the Meta side, you tend to see a lot less quality, a lot more for your intake team to sift through to find those real cases that are high value. So it really depends on what your strengths and weaknesses are. If you have really great content, Meta is the way to go. If you don't really have good content, you don't have a way of getting it, Google might be the path to go. In terms of digital versus out of home, I would say 5 years ago, I would advise people just to focus on digital because I think you can compete, and it was early enough where CPMs were lower, the cost advertiser was lower, and you could really build a business just off the back of digital. But we're in a landscape that's so competitive, especially in California for lemon law, employment law, PI, that digital will get you cases, but you need to build a brand to really get to that next level. Although we don't do out of home, we have partners that do it. And we urge clients, once they get to a certain level, a certain revenue threshold, hey, it's time to think about a new channel to unlock. Why don't we unlock billboards in this market? Why don't we try local TV in this market to drive more brand awareness so that our ads are more effective on the digital side? So the way we think about it is out of home builds awareness so that when they see your ad on digital, it's not the first time they've heard about you. And you're starting to build a web around your target demo so that when, God forbid, anything happens, they know that they can reach out to you. And your conversion rates will go up, your click-through rates will go up, everything will go up because you have other supporting marketing channels. So although boutiques tend to not have all those capabilities, most boutiques can refer you to another business that can help with something. So we have agencies that help us with a lot of services that we don't provide. It is our goal to continue to grow. Like if you looked at us year 1 versus now year 6, we've grown our capabilities, and we're even looking now to rent out a studio where we can do content production in-house now. And I think you'll see that trend with every boutique. They get more and more services, but there's always a contact they have that can help you with another channel that they can help you with. And those typically are better recommendations than the ones that you just find Googling it yourself. So I still think it's better to work with a boutique than a bigger firm, even though they can do less for you.
That makes a ton of sense. And even the sequencing or just the complementary nature of those channels makes a lot of sense as well. When you think about how awareness supports the digital side, it's like a bit of air support when you're then going online.
Yeah, we've taken businesses from starting on Meta to then doing Google ads, doing SEO, then launching onto YouTube ads. Now we're about to announce this on our LinkedIn in a couple of weeks, but we actually launched the first ever law firm ads on Snapchat about a month ago. And we're going to do that for more firms. TikTok, unfortunately, doesn't let law firm ads yet, but when that gets unlocked, we'll be there. And we've done billboards with these attorneys. And now, some of these firms have gotten bigger. We're even looking at some kind of sponsorship opportunities at sports teams or at the arenas or at the fields so that we can, again, build that brand awareness so our ads do better because people are already familiar with us when they see us. So I think there's definitely a progression of channels that you can layer on to build that top of funnel brand awareness. But before you get there, just do something amazing on the content of your Meta ads because that can build a lot of brand awareness too. If you do something super funny, super eye-catchy, something super memorable, and you just keep running versions of that ad and building on that storyline, a lot of people in your market will start to recognize you, even if they don't need you today, and will think about you next time they do need you.
That makes a lot of sense. Jordan, this is wonderful. I could talk to you for a long time about this stuff, but let's wrap it there. And if anyone that wants to reach out to you, learn more about your work, contact you, chat with you, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
You could follow me on Twitter. My handle is Jordan Banaf. You could go to my LinkedIn, Jordan Banafsheha. You can always DM the Icepop HQ Instagram handle, and someone from my team will respond. My company email is jordan@icepop.co, icepop.co. I'm sure we could add that in the notes, but feel free to reach out. I'm always happy to take a phone call and give advice, share experience, send examples, share tools. So just use me as a resource to make your marketing better.
That's awesome. That'll all be linked to in the show notes, and we can wrap there. Thanks a lot, Jordan.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for checking out the Scalable Law Blueprint. If today's conversation helped you think differently about how your law firm runs, share this episode with a colleague, and don't forget to follow the show so you never miss what's next. To see how automation can transform your intake and operations, visit superpanel.io and discover how leading plaintiff firms scale with confidence. I'm Julien Emery, and I'll see you in the next episode.